Well, we've known something like this was coming for a long time, and per Heather Dinich, ESPN, we are hearing even more about that now. I'm about to read an article for the first time. I jumped on as soon as I saw the report. Sources: the Big Ten and SEC to talk possible scheduling partnership and college football playoff future format and automatic bids. This doesn't sound good for us, we being the other side of this. We're going to talk more about that, discuss openly, and get some comments from you guys on this. I have a show scheduled in 30 minutes to do with Locked On Oklahoma State guy, but we'll do this first and we'll talk about this. All that on this episode of Locked On West Virginia.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by FanDuel. Today's episode: get started with $200 in bonus bets. It's guaranteed. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com. Thank you guys for joining in. Welcome. My name is Mountaineer Paul. This is another episode of Locked On West Virginia. Thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen every day. You know it. This is part of the Locked On Podcast Network where we talk about your team every single day. I appreciate you guys for being here. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Golf, as I like to call you. Thanks for coming in. Heather Dinich reporting over at ESPN. She does a fantastic job. Let's get over to it. Share the screen. All right. So this is on X, firstly, and then we'll go to the main aspect of this. Sources: Big Ten, SEC to talk possible scheduling partnership and college football playoff future format and automatic bids. And then if you click on that, it takes you over to ESPN, which I will now show you that article. Let's stop sharing that. Begin sharing this. Okay. Sources: Big Ten, SEC to talk possible scheduling partnership. Let me make sure this isn't anything important. All right, turn this all the way down. I want to get on here so fast sometimes I forget to do that. All right. Big Ten and SEC athletic directors will discuss a possible partnership in football scheduling, along with their preferences for automatic bids in the next iteration of college football playoff. The discussion is to take place at an in-person meeting in Nashville, Tennessee next week. Multiple sources from both conferences told ESPN on Monday. The meeting is a continuation of the Big Ten SEC Joint Advisory Group, which was formed in February. It includes the league's university presidents, chancellors, and athletic directors. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti are scheduled to meet with the athletic directors for one day. There's hope that we can definitely move the needle and make some progress on different things, one Big Ten source says. The future scheduling partnership could hinge on whether the SEC eventually decides to go to 9 conference games, a topic one SEC source has said hasn't been a focus of conversations lately, and some Big Ten athletic directors could push back on any agreement if the SEC doesn't move to 9 games because the Big Ten already plays 9 league opponents. If we're all going to figure this out, one source said, we've got to be on equal footing. Sources in both leagues told ESPN on Monday that they would prefer to have potentially 4 automatic bids each to the college football playoff when the next contract begins in 2026. College football playoff leaders haven't determined yet what the playoff will look like beyond this season and next. Some said they need to know that before making any decisions about future scheduling partnerships. I'm for anything that gives us the maximum number of postseason opportunities, one SEC source said. I don't count bowl games as postseason opportunities. Of course they wouldn't. So greedy. So freaking greedy. I mean, they just can't have enough, can they? I'm for anything that gives us the maximum number of opportunities. Some have also expressed interest in limiting the role of the 13-member selection committee or eliminating it entirely. I think anything we can do to take the subjectivity of a committee off the table is really helpful, the SEC source said. We may not be able to completely get rid of subjectivity. The more we can minimize it. And so Tony Petitti's idea of multiple automatic spots for a conference has a lot of value. I'm not sure 4 is the right number. While the future CFP format is a long way from being determined, guaranteed bids for the 8 of the 14 playoff spots to the SEC and Big Ten would receive significant pushback from others and already has. In March, the CFP and ESPN announced a new 6-year, $7.8 billion contract that runs through 2020, 31, and 32. And ESPN secured a 6-year agreement that will cost $1.3 billion annually, beginning in 26 and 27. The contract is built as either 11 or 13 games, all of which are playoff games, in a 12 or 14-team field. There are protections in place for the ACC, Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12 champions, Notre Dame, and the highest-ranked Group 5 champion in the new contract. In order for some guarantees, though, the other FBS conferences and Notre Dame surrendered the bulk of control over the future format to the SEC and Big Ten. Sources hesitated to say any concrete decisions will be made next week, but Big Ten athletic directors have a regularly scheduled meeting Wednesday in which they hope to prepare talking points to produce real concrete things. Sheesh. What a mouthful that is. They just continue to push back on they're just never happy with what they have. And why would they be? They have all the control now. And it's not like it's going to go away. They're going to continue asking for more. It's like there's nothing to stop it from happening. They have all the leverage. They have every bit of it. The only saving grace I read in the article really to me was the protections in place from ESPN, which I don't even know how well that would hold up at the end of the day. Cash cows both of these conferences, so it's not good for me, in my opinion. You want to get a drink really quick. I just can't believe that we're already moving this direction again. It seems like we just came to agreement for this playoff format, and here we are talking about what's going to happen at the end of it. So obviously, I realize you have to stay ahead of it, but man, it's frustrating. The fear of, and I've said this here lately. I've seen people making fun of Washington State and Oregon State. If you're outside of the Big Ten or the SEC, you're not far away from being Washington State and Oregon State, and no matter who you are. Outside of Clemson, North Carolina, probably Florida State still, even though they're having such a horrible year, and a couple other schools, but it's few and far between. Garfield GG said, this conference realignment is not over, not by a long shot. Big Ten and SEC will take every team they can ultimately and give them TV value. Yeah, and they want four spots per conference. Here's the thing. Notre Dame is going to want a spot, so that leaves 3, right? So there's really, without leaving the group of 5 out altogether, in my opinion, if that happens, and I'm the other conferences, I'm going to say, listen, we're getting screwed. It rolls downhill to group of 5. And I guess the best way to do it at that point would be between the ACC and the Big 12, Notre Dame gets a spot, obviously, if they go in. If Notre Dame doesn't go in, I guess the way you could put this, maybe there's a better way. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. If Notre Dame doesn't get a spot, then it would be 2 and 2 from each conference. If Notre Dame does get a spot, then you would have to take the conference champions from both conferences and then possibly the next highest ranked team. I would hate to leave out the group of 5, but it sounds like and maybe there are better ideas than that. Obviously, conference alignment is not my number one topic, but I thought this would be cool to talk about for a bit here today because I have another show scheduled at 1 where we're gonna preview Oklahoma State, West Virginia. So I thought, well, I'll jump on here and talk about this. So if you guys have anything to add to this conversation, I would definitely accept that. We'll talk about it on the other side of the break. We'll continue to dive into this just a little bit more and talk about what the future could look like, and what it would be like. And would you still be a fan of West Virginia if they were no longer in position to possibly challenge for a national title or playoff spot? I want to know the answer to that, or whoever you follow, whatever school you follow. If you were out of the Power 5, Power 4, would you be as interested to follow your team anymore? That up next on Locked On West Virginia. And of course, this episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you have a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. And if I go to FanDuel right now and look, so Oklahoma State, 3.5-point favorite in Stillwater this weekend, to be expected. I think money should start to come in on West Virginia. Now, this was last night when I checked. I put it in my notes because I knew I'd be doing this read today. The line actually could even be different as quickly as today. So we'll check it out again tomorrow and see where it's moved to. All right, guys. We are back on Locked On West Virginia. Thank you guys for joining the show as always. John, Golf, Garfield, and others have joined. Those of you on X, thank you. Appreciate that. We've got looks like 40 people on X watching right now, so I thank you guys for joining in as well. This is an interesting discussion I thought to ask. Let me know down in the comments if you're watching this now or after the fact. If West Virginia or your favorite school was no longer involved in conference realignment as far as you were left out, would you still be interested in watching your school? I'd just love to know the answer to that question, because for me, I don't know. I think I would still watch, but it would completely break my heart. It would. It would break me bad, because I don't have many things in life that I care about quite as much, because as I've said before on this show, the West Virginia Mountaineers is not just guys running across a field or trying to score touchdowns. It means so much more than that to me. It's being from the state of West Virginia. It's being proud of that. It's a state pride issue. It's no different than somebody who's in the military in a lot of ways, which I was also that too. I don't even know the answer. I'd be so dejected and sad. We'd no longer be WVU, we'd be Marshall. Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's a good way to look at it, and a sad way to look at it, unfortunately. Definitely. John says yes, he would still watch. I think for me, man, it would be tough, but I would do it because there are so many other teams out there. A lot of our natural rivals are still out there. Freaking bee. There's a bee in my house. Mercy. Sorry, guys. But I mean, some of our natural rivals are still out there. And for me, I would still want to beat Pitt. I would still want to beat Virginia Tech. I would still want to beat all these teams that we typically play. If they were left out, on whose name they would be, I don't know. But as long as we were still playing a lot of those old teams, I think some of the old passion would still be there. But, man, it would take a big chunk of the excitement out unless I don't know because I think about it like, would it really be like if there was a power two? Would we be college football and they would be semi-pro? Like, I guess it would depend a lot on what the titles are because to me, if they go do this power two thing, you can't call yourself college football anymore. There's no freaking way. There's no way. That's not college football. um, that's not semi. I mean, that's semi-pro, right? Um, I don't even know if I don't even know how you can tie universities to this. It just, I don't know. Pitt would end up a Big Ten program. I'm almost sure of it. I think we'd be done playing them. I don't know about that. I mean, I think they are way down the line personally on the Big Ten's list if this to happen. And if it does happen, maybe they do expand. But from what I at least the impression I get right now is I don't even know. Are you sure these conferences even want to expand anymore? I mean, maybe a couple more teams, but I mean, I don't see. I don't see. I don't know what I've clicked on here, but let me get out of this. There we go. I don't see. I don't know. I don't see us being one of the best 20. If it's 20, let's say that. Sky's the limit. Losing college football would suck, but it's like the NFL now, so I can live without it because it's too political now. I have hunting and mushroom season, so that's my getaway. Okay, well, I don't have that. I've got video games, I guess, but I mean, I'm nowhere near as passionate about that. But that's probably what it would turn into for me. I would become a video game streamer most likely and try to make that work. I'm too old now. I'm 39 years old. That would have been like 10 years ago or more. But 10 years ago, there wasn't that many video game streamers. Probably, I often say it's something that I wish I would at least tried to jump on, but at this point in time, I don't know. It's tough to build an audience, no matter what you do. Obviously, like with a show like this, where we oh by the way, thank you guys. We made it to 2,400 subscribers. Thank you for that. It means a lot. We've grown since we moved to Locked On West Virginia. We've grown right around 300, I think, or so, which is pretty good in a month's time. So you think about where we'll be in a year. That's pretty exciting. If we do, I don't think we'll stay at 300 a month, but let's say we do 150 a month. That's another 1,000, and it's slow moving. I mean, but we'll get to that 10,000 number pretty soon in a couple years because the larger you get, the more people are seeing you each episode, the more the algorithm recognizes you and puts you out there. So I think eventually we'll get there, even if it is only West Virginia. Because look at our audience on X. It's huge. There's a huge, huge audience for West Virginia out there. I may not be for everybody, but all right, guys. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, we're going to wrap this episode up. I have a Locked On West Virginia episode to do with Cody Stovall, Oklahoma State next. So let me get these ads read, and then we'll move on to finishing up this conversation. Thank you guys for sticking around, and I'll be right back on this episode of Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events. I've told you guys this before. I've been to several West Virginia games, and probably one of my best memories was the Gator Bowl, 2007 Gator Bowl, possibly. It might have been 09, 08, somewhere in there. I think it was 07. Yeah, 07. Pat White's junior year, because he played North Carolina his senior year. I watched the Mountaineers. I was sitting in the end zone of the Jackson Jaguar Stadium and watched Calvin Johnson ring up 200 yards in a loss, 38-35. West Virginia won that football game. Pat White put the team on his shoulders, as always. Game Time has a feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Filters out the fluff. It shows you only incredible deals on seats that you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets for. My personal experience with Game Time has been really good. I can pick a live event on the app, browse through seats on Game Time Picks, and I usually find really good deals. I mean, there's really cheap tickets on there. If you want to customize your spot, you can do that as well. There's so many different things you can do. There's curated deals that make it easier for you to find the best price on seats. The seat views before you buy, if you want to do that, you can look at a pretty much a 360 of where you're going to be at. And then they have the lowest price guarantee, cancellation events protection, job loss protection, etc. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. It's pretty easy. Download the app, create an account, and use Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. That's on Game Time. What time is it? It's game time. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining this episode of Locked On West Virginia. Like I said, if you're new around here for this episode, let's go over it one more time. Let's share the screen and talk about it one more quick time. Heather Dinich from ESPN, one of the best reporters in the country. I remember when she covered the ACC only as a blogger. All she was a blogger on ESPN.com at one point in time. I remember when she first started, because I used to read her all the time. But sources: Big Ten, SEC to talk possible scheduling partnership and college football playoffs future format and automatic bids. This is a scary situation for we West Virginia fans, to say the least, and others within the Big 12. And I mean, look, did we ever think that it wasn't going to get here is the question I'm going to ask you. Yes, I think we all realized it was probably going to get here at some point. Now, this is still a few years off, unless something drastic happens, but it's scary. And I just want to point out that West Virginia fans are resilient, and we're going to get through this, whatever happens with the scheduling realignment. If we're not included, if we are included, but the way we can help is by supporting West Virginia to the utmost. Anybody and everybody call to action. We need eyeballs on the Mountaineers as much as we can over the next few years. Somehow, some way, we have to do our small part to make West Virginia a winner again. And I know it's going to take a great coach to do that overall, but we can't be a hindrance. We have to be a part of the solution and not the problem. People saying we shouldn't watch games, we shouldn't pay Country Roads Trust, all that I completely disagree with, and I'll continue to disagree with, because we just don't have time to anymore, in my opinion. We have to continue to support even through the tough times, and like we have been for the last few years. Or we're going to get left behind for good, and we're not going to have a team anymore. Is almost how it sounds like it could end up, right? Brian McGuinn, sorry, that was hard for me to say. We need PE to form a super league. Otherwise, the SEC Big Ten will have the upper hand. What do you mean by PE? Trying to figure out what that is. Can you explain what PE is, Brian? I'm probably missing something really obvious, but Brent Yormark has brought up in the past, private equity. Okay. I knew it was something obvious. Yeah, I mean, private equity can only help so much. And the thing is, Brian, they can do it too. It's not like private equity is something only we can have and the SEC and Big Ten can't have it. They can have it too if they need an extra boost, even above what they already have. So I get what you're saying. It can help us, but it's also not like this huge advantage. People think, in my opinion, but I don't know it all, and I'm not pretending I do. It's just logically, when I look at it, people say, hey, we can go private equity. Now, maybe they wouldn't use it, and we would catch up. But if we started to, you don't think they wouldn't? That's the way I look at that. But other thing I wanted to say before we jump off here and I get on with Cody is, one other thing about this whole realignment thing that I think doesn't get talked about enough, really, is the basketball thing Yormark was going in on a few years back, or a year back, or whatever it was, how we would probably maybe there's a way for us to monopolize the basketball end of this, to where we're like, okay, you take football from us, well, we'll just have all the best basketball brands, and you can't be a part of that. We'll go form our own thing. I don't know if that's ever possible, but people are much smarter than me can tell me. But it's just a thought. Um, Let me know down below, guys. Is that possible? Do you think Yormark could form a basketball league under the SEC and Big Ten snows and say, hey, look, you want to be part of the best basketball league? Just give us a spot. That's all we care about, you know. John Kristopich says the ACC and Big 12 need to merge. Good point. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. I think there are brands in the SEC or the ACC that probably wouldn't really want to do that, but who knows? Who knows? Thank you guys for joining this episode of Locked On West Virginia. I've got to get over to this other episode with Cody Stovall. We're going to preview Oklahoma State and West Virginia today, and I'll have that episode out this afternoon. So be looking for that, guys. Thank you guys for joining this episode. We'll talk to you later on this afternoon. Please like and share the video out. If you can, just share it out on X, wherever you can. All right, guys. Have a good evening. This episode's over. And I'm at, before I go, thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen. For your second listen, do me a favor and find Locked On College Football. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. All you have to do is find Locked On College Football on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. All right, guys. See you later. Wrong one.